What's going on, traders? Andrew O'Connell here with Pristine Capital, coming at you with yet another market recap video. It's April 12th of 2022. Please go ahead, do me a huge favor and click the like button and also subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate all of you. And let's dive into today's market recap. Before we do that, quick risk disclaimer: nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Always follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. Last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account to any one of my trades, or anyone's trades for that matter, even including your own trades. All right, so let's take a look at the market action for today. Box scores: we had the S&P 500 finishing down 0.37%. We had the NASDAQ QQQ finishing down 0.42%. Small caps were actually positive, up 0.32%. Dogs of the Dow were down 0.29%, and the ARK Innovation ETF finished out completely flat. So take a look at this. Pretty quiet day, huh? Not really much movement in the indices, no big deal. Now, this day was anything but. Today was super eventful. We had the CPI data that came out at 8:30 a.m. this morning, and we were all bracing for this data point because we knew this could be a real make or break. Pretty much the entire market, it's sitting on a knife's edge. We all know we have this inflation problem that's ravaging the economy. It's causing interest rates to move higher. It's causing the Fed to be more aggressive. It's a huge problem for the market. Well, we ended up getting our core inflation rate came out basically in line with consensus. We had actuals of 6.5%. We had a forecasted rate of 6.7%. And then the inflation rate year over year, non-core, came in at 8.5%. This was forecast at 8.3%. So basically we came in directly in line with expectations. And what ended up happening, we had a huge gap higher in the market, which was fantastic. The first hour was like complete euphoria. Everything was up, breaking support level or breaking resistance levels, It looked like, hey, we might get a little bit of a bounce into Easter. But then things started to get a little bit more ominous, team. You can see pretty much all of these indices, they closed towards the bottom end of their day's range. We did have volatility. By the end of the day, it actually did still contract in everything except the Dow Jones. But then you can see our market breadth was negative across all of these indices except for the small caps, which had 52% advancers. Let's take a look at the heat map, and what you'll see here is that it's a very mixed picture, and you can see energy stocks were really leading the way to the upside, and these mega cap tech names, which started off the day pretty much all green, ended off the day very mixed. We had Nvidia, which really brought up the rear. It finished down 1.88%. That's one of the most risk-on stocks in the market, and so that's not really a good indicator. Tesla finished out positive, Apple finished out positive, so it wasn't all bad. On our sector map, we can see that this was a pretty broad sell-off. Emerging markets were down 1.53%. We have the KWEB Chinese internet names down 1.9%. The major strength in the market was in, again, these very defensive areas. We had consumer staples, utilities finished out green, and gold miners. I notice everyone on Twitter is talking about like, oh, gold miners, gold miners. That is great. These are forming a very nice pattern. But when you notice everyone's getting excited about the gold miners, that's when you know you're not in a very risk-on environment in the market, because that likely means gold prices are moving higher, and gold is often used as a hedge for most portfolios. So definitely not a risk-on environment here. And then with our style factors, you can see the high div, low vol, and cyclicals were green. Everything else was red. Then, of course, our seasonality data. April is supposed to be a pretty strong month seasonally, but so far we're not really getting that. Let's take a look. Let's check out our indices. And so I'm going to pull up, just to really illustrate what today was like, I'm going to pull up this 5-minute chart just so you can see the madness that we had. And depending on which part of the day you came in on, this was like the best day ever, a horrible day, and really everything in between. So look at this. We had this pump at 8:30 a.m. and it looked like everything was good. We had this really nice move higher after the CPI data came out. Then we had a morning dip, and what you'll notice is at 9:30, we had pulled back to this key moving average right here. Shortly after we opened, boom, we zoomed right off to the highs again. So, all right, we're feeling great. But anyone that bought into these highs really got steamrolled. Throughout the whole rest of the day, we pretty much trended downwards. until the very end of the session, we finally saw some relief. So this was a pretty nuanced day. It's kind of like, depending on how close you are to the markets, like for me today was a pretty wild day, but if you're just kind of popping in at the end of the day, you would never really know it. Now the key here for the daily chart is we did close below that 50-day moving average for the S&P 500, and we could not break back above this monthly value area high. So we're still in a very dicey market. My trend model still closed at -3. So yeah, overall, just not really the best environment for swing trading. One thing that worked out for the better is we did get our bounce in treasuries, finally. So look at this. We got a nice green candle in these 10-year treasury futures. And then in our 30-year treasury futures, you can see we had a nice bounce as well. Not quite as good as in the 10-year futures. Now, there were a couple of weird nuances for today while the market was still green. And we were noticing, hey, some of these stronger areas of the market were fading. Volatility was not really staying down, like it started to creep higher as the day went on. And for that reason, I did take some risk down intraday. And so let's go over to my trades here. So today was pretty challenging. I think, yeah, we'll go to my options trades first. So I had some QQQ calls from last week, and I ended up closing these out for $8.01. I had paid $12.71. This was towards the end of the day before things got really ugly. It was when the market went from, you know, the NASDAQ up like almost 2% to basically flat. I said, hey, everything I'm seeing here is telling me to take this risk in. This is one of the hardest parts of being a trader. When you're a trader, you want every single trade to work. Like, oh man, I'm just going to have all winners. Like, this is going to be amazing. And that's what a lot of people on Twitter, they try to project. Like, it's all winners, whatever, you know, it's like all gravy train. This is easy. But in reality, it's just like any other sport. You know, you're a basketball player, you got your shooting percentage. You're a baseball player, you got your batting average. But the hardest part of being a trader, and if you can do this, you're going to be really successful in trading, is being able to just take things off for a loss and keep those losses at a manageable level. So I said, hey, Qs, I'm going to go ahead and pull this one off. I could just leave it on and fight till the bitter end, but let me just nip this one because I think I might get a better entry. I also did the same thing with this SPY call option. This is a very small position for me. And then I ended up flipping and I went the other way. So I bought SPY puts. So I went from having a few longs on to closing those out and then going short. And I ended up pulling those off about an hour and a half later for a nice winner. So yeah, you can be stubborn and like, no, I won't accept it. And like just, you know, throw your hands up and put your head in the sand, whatever you want to call it. But if you're more nimble and you can flip as the market flips, yeah, you'll end up doing much better over time. So this, in the beginning, was kind of like a bummer. I was like, oh man, I had to take these off for losses. But then I was able to make some back, so it all worked out. And I just put here, when I closed out the shorts, we could get another bounce off the PPI data tomorrow. We have more inflation data that is coming out. And today, basically, it was like bear trap, which turned into a bull trap. But then towards the end of the day, we came off the lows and all of these volatility gauges ended up closing red. So if I think about the situation that would be the most frustrating outcome for all these traders out there in the market, it would be after having this magnificent green day turn red for tomorrow for us to get another gap higher. So I ended up adding on some calls in the Qs into the end of the day. You'll notice we have the PPI data that is coming out tomorrow also at 8:30 a.m. So yeah, did that. What else did we have here in terms of trading? I did do some stock trading as well. One trade that ended up working out pretty well was GoGo. This one, I've been talking about this the past couple of videos. But GoGo ended up moving right through our target level that we had set in our weekend watch list. So check this out. This was our setup, you know, triggering above 20.02, defining the stop, setting a target, and defining the reward to risk. And look what happened here. We zoomed right through this target. So what I did, I noticed, hey, the stock is just so strong. So rather than take the position off when we got to 22 bucks, I sold some calls against my GoGo. So I sold the 22 strike expiring this Thursday. So very short term. I collected 70 cents for this. And what that does is, take a look here at GoGo. So I sold those for 70 cents, right? And not go. I'm looking for go. Yeah, so what that does is if this stock, it can go all the way up to 22.70 by expiration, and that is my profit zone. If it moves any further beyond 22.70, that's where it's as if I took the trade off. So what that allows me to do is it gives me more confidence sticking with the trade because I'm reducing my cost basis, I'm mitigating my risk, etc. But yeah, GoGo, this was a very strong name. So looking really good. Glad that one worked out. And the other trade that I did as well was I took off my Shopify. And Shopify, this is another, oh, my cat just like jumped off the table, but take a look at this. So this is another good learning lesson. I put this trade on yesterday. There was a stock split that was announced for Shopify. It's like, hey, I think these duration sensitives might bounce. Shopify looks good. We just got that news about the stock split. Let's go ahead and add this trade. Now I noticed Shopify was not really showing much relative strength. So I was like, this could be a dud right here. And in trading, what I find is like once you get that instinct in your mind and you see something that's negative, it's best to just nip it in the bud. I actually waited maybe like an hour and I could have taken off my Shopify for a small winner. I ended up taking it off for 606.15. I had paid 617.5, so maybe took like a 2% loss there. But yeah, we ended up closing much lower than that. We closed out at 591, so I'm glad that I did take that off. And then of course, into the bell, that was where I put on some NASDAQ call options. So yeah, I closed out my NASDAQ calls maybe 2 hours earlier, and hey, I got a better entry on them. So I went ahead and re-entered those calls for $12.15. So overall, I would say the market was in hard mode today. Today was not an easy day for trading. If you did any buying in the beginning of the day, you're pretty much up the creek without a paddle. But here we are, we have PPI data coming out tomorrow. We had our squeeze metrics data come out. Our dark index came in above a 45, which is good. Our dealer gamma is so negative now. So what this means is that we can get really big directional moves. So any sort of catalyst could really set this market off in either direction. So I would imagine tomorrow's going to be another very eventful day, going to be super exciting. And yeah, it's all about being prepared, being open-minded, and just ready for whatever the river brings, team. So at 8:30, definitely make sure you're watching out for that PPI number. I certainly will. And hope you all have an awesome rest of your evening. I'll see you all tomorrow.